What if the very thing that you have been trying to rise above is the experience that your soul came here to have? What if the goal is not to stop feeling so much, not to master your mind so completely that nothing touches you, not to become so spiritual that life no longer hurts, but to become conscious enough to be fully here, fully alive, fully present, fully human? Because I see this happen all the time in spiritual and self aware spaces. We want peace, but sometimes what we really mean is, I don't want to feel this. We want to raise our vibration, but sometimes what we really mean is, I want to get out of the messiness of being human. We want to manifest a different reality, but sometimes we are trying to skip over the very emotions, the choices, the relationships, and the embodied moments that are asking to be lived. And I understand the impulse. The world can be loud. Being human can be tender. It can be vulnerable. Loss, uncertainty, disappointment, longing, desire, waiting. It can all feel like so much. But what if your humanity is not the obstacle to your awakening? What if your humanity is the place awakening becomes real? And that is what we are going to be talking about today. Welcome to Infinite You, beautiful souls. I'm Dr. Sheri, spiritual psychologist, multidimensional mindset mentor, and human potential catalyst. And here on Infinite You, I help you understand yourself more deeply, align with who you truly are, and consciously create the life that you really want from the inside out. And today we are talking about something that I think is deeply important for sensitive, spiritual, self-aware people. The temptation of trying to escape the human experience, to spiritualize our way out of pain, to mindset our way out of grief or overwhelm, to high vibe our way out of disappointment, to become so focused on transcendence that we forget the sacredness of being here on this beautiful, amazing planet. But before we dive in, I would love for you to subscribe to this channel. I'm growing this community. If this conversation resonates with you, and please share this video with someone who may need the reminder that they do not have to transcend their humanity to be deeply wise, spiritual, powerful, consciously creative, and live full out in this three-dimensional world and our three-dimensional bodies, and have this most amazing physical experience as energetic beings. So let's dive right in. I don't think that people consciously say, I want to escape being human. But I do think that we can carry that longing in more subtle ways. It can sound like, I just want to stop overthinking. I just want to stop being triggered. I just want to stop caring what other people think. I want to be unbothered. I want to stay in alignment all the time. I just want to manifest so quickly that I don't have to live in uncertainty. I just want to be healed enough that this never hurts again. Of course you want relief. Of course you want peace. Of course you want to stop repeating patterns that exhaust you. And of course you want to live more in alignment, with more clarity, with more emotional freedom. And then you want to manifest all the cool, amazing things that come, with being on the physical plane. And I do want all of those things for you too. But I also think we have to be a little bit careful, because sometimes in our desire to evolve, we start relating to our humanity as if it is a problem. And if sadness means we have dropped in vibration, as if anger might mean that we are not spiritual enough, as if disappointment means we have failed to create what we want properly, as if grief means we are resisting life, as if wanting something deeply makes us less detached, less elevated, less advanced. And I don't believe any of that. I do not believe awakening is becoming less human. I believe awakening is becoming more present to the truth of this human experience. You did not come here to flatten your emotional range. You did not come here to become a perfectly regulated, perfectly productive, perfectly detached spiritual machine. You came here. You chose this. You came here to experience life, to feel the warmth of sun on your skin, to laugh until your belly aches, to desire, to create, to fall in love, to miss people, to make meaning, to be moved by beauty, to have ideas that light you up in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, to feel your heart crack open from music, from nature, or a moment of grace that you did not expect. You came here to participate. And participation means vulnerability. It does not mean that every moment needs to be controlled. I'll say that a different way. It means that not every moment needs to be controlled, that not every emotion can be pre-approved, that not every outcome can be known before you take the step. Not every loss can be turned immediately into a lesson without first being mourned. And there is wisdom in learning not to identify with every emotion. There is wisdom in noticing thought patterns and not letting them run your life. There is wisdom in choosing your frequency and returning to your inner authority. But there's also wisdom in sitting beside your own heart and saying, of course, this matters. Of course, I feel this. Of course, being alive touches me. That is not weakness, that is embodiment. And I think that this longing can become especially strong for spiritual people. For sure, I've had my moments myself, because once you begin to sense that you are more than a body, more than your personality, more than your history, more than this one visible slice of reality, there can be a deep homesickness, a sense of, I remember something really more expansive than this. I feel there is a realm beyond this density. I know that love is larger than what gets expressed here. And I know consciousness is wider than the human mind can grasp. And that awareness can be beautiful. It can save you. It can orient you. It can keep you connected. It can give meaning to moments that otherwise feel impossible to bear. But sometimes it can also make embodied life feel lesser by comparison, when the body feels heavy, or when you're in pain, when the world feels noisy and overwhelming, when relationships feel complicated, when time feels slow, when healing becomes tedious, when creating in the physical world feels frustrating. And some part of you thinks, I just want to go back home. I just want to go back to the non-physical and be expansive and trust this experience of who I am unfolding in a very powerful way. And I definitely have been there. I know that feeling deeply. But I also want to say lovingly to you, you are home here too on this beautiful planet, not because Earth is always easy. The physical can be super challenging, not because the human experience is always fair, not because pain is something to glorify, but because your soul is not absent from your body. Your consciousness is not absent from your daily life. The divine is not only somewhere beyond this world, it is here. It is the breath. It is the cells. It is the choice. It is the conversation. It is the creation. It is the moment that you forgive yourself. It is the courage to want again, the courage to love again, the tenderness of continuing. It is all that. This is one of the most important things I want to say today. Your humanity is not separate from your spirituality. Your emotions are not in the way of your soul. Your body is not in the way of your consciousness. Your desires are not automatically beneath your spiritual growth. Your personality is not an unfortunate inconvenience your higher self has to manage. All of it is part of incarnation. All of it is information. All of it is an invitation. All of it is material for consciousness to become more awake through you. That does not mean that every emotional reaction is your truth. It does not mean every desire should be acted on. It does not mean pain should run your life. It does not mean we need to romanticize suffering. But it does mean that we need to stop treating the human layer as if it is a lowly thing that we must spiritually outgrow. I really have come to believe that we are here to integrate, and I talk about this all the time with this multidimensional mindset, to allow the eternal self and the human self to come into deeper relationship, to let the wisdom of the soul inform the choices of the person, to let the body become a vessel of intelligence, not a burden to control or even suffer in, to let emotion become meaningful information, not an identity or an enemy, to let desire become a doorway, not a shameful attachment. There is a difference between expanding beyond a pattern and abandoning yourself inside it. There is a difference between not being ruled by fear and refusing to admit that you are afraid. There is a difference between choosing peace and forcing yourself to be okay before you have been honest. There's a difference between trusting life and using trust as a way to avoid making a necessary decision. There is a difference between conscious creation and trying to manifest your way around the parts of life that ask you to mature, to feel, to trust, to choose, to decide. This is where discernment matters. Sometimes the most aligned thing is to shift your state, change your focus, return to possibility, and move forward. We didn't come here to be promised any kind of a guarantee. We came here to expand. And sometimes the most aligned thing you can do is to grieve. Sometimes it is to rest. Sometimes it is to apologize. Sometimes it is to admit that you are hurt. Sometimes it is to say no. Sometimes it is to want more honesty. Sometimes it is to stop dressing up avoidance as spiritual surrender. That does not make you less conscious. It makes you more truthful. It makes you more aware. And truth and alignment and awareness have a very high vibration. I think that many of us, especially once we have done a lot of inner work and developed this reflex of trying to move immediately to the lesson, I think that something hurts and almost instantly we begin to ask, what is this here to teach me? What is the growth opportunity? What is the pattern? What is the mirror? What am I seeing in someone else that is being reflected back to me? What belief do I need to shift? All of those things can be really amazing, beautiful questions. But sometimes the first sacred act before you dive into what is this all about and how can I, dig deeper into this. Sometimes the first sacred act is presence, to say, this hurt, this mattered, I wanted something, I lost something, I'm disappointed, I am human. There will be a lesson if there is a lesson. Not everything is a lesson. Not everything is a lesson. There will be meaning if meaning wants to emerge. There will be a pattern to observe if one is active. But you do not have to rush past the experience of your own life in order to prove that you are spiritually evolved. Sometimes consciousness looks like staying with your body, staying with the moment, staying with the truth, staying with yourself long enough that the deeper wisdom rises naturally instead of being forced. And this matters deeply for conscious creation, because if you are trying to create a life that you love while rejecting the fullness of your own human experience, there will be fragmentation. You may want abundance, but reject the vulnerability of being visible. You may want love, but reject the discomfort of being seen. You may want purpose, but you reject the uncertainty of beginning. You may want freedom, but you reject the responsibility of choosing. You may want joy, but be unwilling to feel the grief that is sitting between you and your aliveness. Conscious creation is not about controlling reality so perfectly that nothing uncomfortable ever happens again. And I think we humans get caught in the fear of that. Remember that it is about learning, about becoming more awake to what you are choosing, what you are embodying, what you are allowing, and what you are here to create, while still honoring the truth of being human. You are not more powerful when nothing touches you. You are more powerful when life touches you, when you remain connected to yourself, when you can feel without collapsing, when you can desire without apologizing, grieve without turning it into an identity, hope without demanding guarantees, act without betraying your inner knowing, receive without guilt, create without hardening. This is power, not spiritual numbness, embodied consciousness. So if you notice yourself trying to escape the human experience, rushing to fix, spiritually rationalizing, numb, transcend, or prematurely getting over something, just ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Not what I should feel, not what would the most evolved version of me feel. What is honestly here? And then ask yourself, what would it look like to meet this experience with consciousness instead of resistance? Do I need to breathe? Do I need space? Do I need truth? Do I need compassion, a boundary, a decision, an aligned action, a conversation, permission to not know yet? And then ask yourself, how can I let my deeper wisdom hold this human moment without erasing it? What does my soul know that can comfort me here? Give me a new insight, a new angle. What truth can accompany this feeling without dismissing it? How can I stay connected to the eternal part of me while honoring the very real human part? These questions matter, because the goal is not to drown in the human experience. The goal is not to escape from it either. The goal is to inhabit it consciously. And I think about this a lot. If soul only wanted pure expansiveness, why embody it at all? Why even come here? Why enter time? Why enter relationship? Why enter form? Why enter longing? Why enter choice? Perhaps because there are certain kinds of beauty that can only be expressed here in physical form. The beauty of courage, the beauty of forgiveness, the beauty of creating something that did not exist before, the beauty of holding a loved one's hand, the beauty of rebuilding after loss, the beauty of a dream slowly becoming real, the beauty of learning to see yourself differently after years of forgetting who you really are. Maybe this life is not a lesser plane we are trying to graduate from as quickly as possible. Maybe it is a sacred terrain of becoming, of expanding. Maybe your soul is not impatient with your humanity. Maybe it came here for this. So, beautiful soul, stop trying to escape your human experience. Not because pain is noble, not because you should stay stuck, not because you are meant to suffer, but because your humanity is not the enemy of your expansion. It is the place that your expansion takes form. You are allowed to be spiritual and still be sad, wise and still uncertain, powerful and still tender, evolving and still in process, connected to the infinite and still deeply moved by this one precious human life. You do not have to become untouchable to be awakened. You do not have to float above your life to live in alignment. You are here to bring your consciousness into your life, into the body, into the choice, into the grief, into the joy, into the desire, into the dream, into the moment, because this is not a detour from your soul. This is where your soul is becoming visible and experiencing itself through your physical form. And so if this conversation resonated with you, I would love for you to subscribe to Infinite You and join this growing community of people who are ready to understand themselves more deeply, live more consciously, and create and manifest from who they really are. And if you would like to stay connected beyond YouTube, I invite you to join my free newsletter. I will put the link below, where I share deeper insight and reflections and offers and invitations. The link, like I said, is below. And you can also click on the link for my human design session. I'm a certified human design practitioner, and that is all about energy and authority and your particular energy type and how you move through the world and create. So those links are below. I have something really cool coming up that I will be sharing with you very, very soon. I appreciate you so much for being here. Go ahead, hit subscribe, hit like, drop a comment if this resonates with you. And I will see you all next time. Beautiful souls in the field. Namaste.